the viaduct looms like a bird of doom as it ships and cracks. Where secrets lie in the border fires and the humming wires. Yeah, man, you know you're never coming back. Past the square, past the bridge, past the mills, past the stacks. On a gathering storm comes a tall, handsome man in a dusty black coat with a red right hand.
Hello, heroes of Aeternum. In episode 6 of Aeternum Awaits, we will discuss more predictions on future content in New World. Recently, a new datamined map has been unofficially released, but it seems to fit into comments and promotions made by the New World devs about the game. In a recent interview, Robert Chesney had this to say about playing New World. As players explore Aeternum, they'll meet characters from countless cultures who have arrived on the island during different ages. Later in that same interview, Chesney goes on to say, yes, the various civilizations and cultures of the world have brought their own understandings of life, time, death, magic, good and evil, and then seen those beliefs reflected back at them as they've interacted with the energies of Aeternum. So when I hear the New World devs make comments that there is still a lot of content coming down the road, and they also say that countless cultures have arrived on the island at various times, that tells me that regardless of if this specific data-mined New World map is authentic or not, certainly something like it is going to eventually be added to the game. Now in this way, the data-mined map is a great representation, even if it's not authentic, of what we can expect to see down the road. When I look at current content in the game, I certainly don't see what I would consider countless cultures already in New World. By my count, we know that we have the various corrupted pirates and settlers from all over Western Europe and the local islands near the Bermuda Triangle. This would include the withered groups and other zombie types of groups in game. In game are also the ancients, but we don't know where they are from because they're all skeletons. But we do know that the expedition's primary focus is to provide clues about who they are, where they are from, and what happened to them when they fell to corruption. In general, what happened at Aeternum. We also know that the Chinese arrived with their empress and they settled in at Ebonscale Reach. We know the Romans reached Aeternum and that Spanish conquistadors also made their way to the island because they are both major focal points in the game's video promotions. To me, although I think this is a great start, what is currently in game is clearly not countless cultures. More cultures certainly have to be coming our way for the devs to live up to the claims that they have made promoting the game. Doubling the map, especially with in-game content, would absolutely make sense, in my opinion, and make New World a huge smash on all counts. The leveling grind, the faction storyline and quests, and the expedition adventures getting to the in-game would make New World a fantastic gaming experience, both at the start of the game and end game. Back in May 2020, my favorite New World content creator, Sir Medieval, discussed the possibility of new cultures being added to the New World game and the impact it could have on the game as it was looking for a new identity after deciding to allow PvP to be toggled and losing its pure PvP genre. I'm going to talk more about Sir Medieval at the end of this episode, but for now I'd like to examine what he had to say back in May of 2020 about the game's future content, which, by the way, so far is looking to be spot on.
This video is a tweet that someone had mentioned me in, where they speculated that the broken down ship that Amazon Game Studios teased in a recent picture was actually that of a Viking longship. And I do have to personally thank the person because yes, Paul, I believe you are absolutely right. And this is very good news for all of us, both lore-wise and future content-wise. First, I'd like to reiterate that, like I've said before, it would be very interesting to see past civilizations rise up in the world of Aeternum besides the Romans. We know that the game takes place in an alternate version of the 17th century, and even though my history is very rusty in a lot of parts, I know that there are a lot of civilizations that rose and fell before that time period. And to get specific, every single one of my, and I'm sure a lot of other people's favorite civilizations have come before this time period. The reason this could mean a good thing for the game is when you start talking about past civilizations and how they can be implemented, we can start getting into topics like new armor, new weapon designs, whether they're cosmetic based or earnable in some way. On top of that, we have certain points of interest or entire territories and settlements that could be made, with designs that mirror past civilizations. And most importantly, we get content related to them as well. When they first got to Aeternum, it was far, far, far back before a lot of these civilizations even existed. And after these men get corrupted, we see an unexplained time skip and we have no idea how much time passes in between. Only that the next men to arrive seem to be wearing armor from what appears to be the colonial period. Now, the colonial period was said to have started in the early 1600s, and since this world of Aeternum takes place in the 17th century, it sounds safe to say that we're still within that time period. The Romans I mentioned before came about back in 27 BC, and despite the Western Roman Empire being the first to fall in around 476 AD, the Eastern Empire was said to not have lived past the 14th century, and all within that time frame, a great deal of other civilizations were popping up all across the world, which also brings us to our second topic, the Vikings. Now for this, we're going to take a look all the way back at the screenshot that Amazon released earlier. When I first saw Paul's message and looked at the broken ship, I couldn't help but think to myself, yeah, that does look like a Viking ship way more than a Roman. The Romans used ships like the triremes from what I remember, and they didn't look anything like that. And also, yeah, the shields don't appear to resemble that of a Roman shield at all, much more similar to that of a Viking-based one. But then it actually hit me, it's because of the ship's head. Anytime I've seen Vikings depicted in gaming or movies or TV shows, a lot of the time the way I could tell a Viking ship from a regular is because of the ship's head. So I had to do some research as soon as I saw this, and lo and behold, I found it immediately. Vikings had usually embellished these boats with decorative headpieces. These heads, those of a dragon and snake, were very popular, and they were designed to provoke fear in the spirits of whichever land the Vikings were raiding. And then I saw pictures of the Viking head as well, and the part that stuck out to me the most was the ears on top of it, and the shape of its mouth in combination. My friends, I believe that we're looking at the first proof that Vikings have visited these lands. And not just the dragon head, but the round shields, the placement of the oars on the side, the ethereal footsteps of those who came before us. This absolutely has to mean something. But then the question opens up to the next part. So if you've got Vikings and you've got Romans, who else could have visited the lands of Aeternum at one point in time? If you've got Rome, that must mean you have Carthage. And if you've got Carthage, that means Hannibal must have been an awesome guy in this universe too. And then on the other side of that, if you've got Vikings, where's my Anglo-Saxons? The Middle Ages were from 476 AD to around the 14th century, and the Vikings weren't the only ones who owned ships or could get access to them. I don't think anyone would have a big problem with it. Tying the lore and the design of the Vikings alone could heavily enhance the game in my opinion, whether it's religious beings that could have an alternate influence on the island like those of Thor, Odin, Frigga, and more, or just the design of their armor and weapons being added in as crafted items or loot we can obtain. I think they could certainly make it work, especially with the combat system. There's already players asking for weapons like dual-wielding daggers or axes, or one-handed axe and shield for instance, but having armor and a Viking or Anglo-Saxon theme to go along with that would make it that much sweeter. And not just them, but you've got the Templars that were founded in the 11th century. We could get armor designs of them in the future, which would be extremely awesome for a Templar fanboy like myself. Or even throw in inspiration from medieval Ireland and Scotland. Don't even have to settle for just England. There's so many possibilities in the Middle Ages alone, and it is truly one of my favorite periods. And to get ridiculous for a second, why couldn't we get the stuff from the three kingdoms of China themselves? Housing decorations, areas of the map to explore, weapons and armor themed after that legendary period of time, and we could even see some samurai.
Well, here we are over a year later, and Sir Medieval's prediction about the Chinese being a fantastic addition, well, guess who's in the game now? The Empress at Ebonscale Reach and her Chinese warriors. Also taking a look at some of the new gear and costumes coming into the game, very much looking samurai and different Chinese styles, as well as the Knights Templar. We are also starting to see weapons types come in that belong to some of these very same cultures. When it's all said and done, and all of the game's content is in, including a massive addition of in-game content in the incoming second half of the map, whether the second half of the map matches this data-mined map or it's something completely different, there will be an addition of several more areas similar to Ebonscale Reach with multiple cultures added in-game, and it will be obvious to every gamer that plays New World that Amazon finally hit a home run. It's going to be an amazing experience from start to finish, and I cannot wait to play this game. The last topic I'd like to discuss on this episode of Aeternum Awaits is in regard to our outstanding content creator, Sir Medieval. He has served our New World community on such a high level that, in my opinion, he is by far our most valuable content creator. Recently, he posted a video asking for our help. Please go to his YouTube page or look for it on my Twitch channel and watch for his content titled The Truth About Sir Medieval. He is in a very difficult situation and could really use some encouragement and support. I'm sure you've enjoyed his outstanding content in today's discussion, and it would be a great way to show support for him to stop by and let him know that you're thinking about him. I have also financially supported him on his GoFundMe page, and I hope that you will too. He is an outstanding content creator and person. Thank you for your consideration, and I look forward to seeing you all in Aeternum.